Welcome to Big Blue's Exploration. This trip was several months ago on my trip to Canada from Zurich in Switzerland. The trip started off quite early in the morning, as it normally does from these outstations. First of 3 flights that day from Zurich to London, then London to Dallas, and then Dallas to Seattle in Washington State, US of A, before taking the train the next day to Canada. So everything was good, got through security relatively quickly in Swiss efficiency, had a nice, pleasant enough flight on the way to London, got to spend some time again in the business class lounge due to my silver status with British Airways, and when I got to the gate, that wonderful beep rejecting my ticket happened. Knowing at that point my flight was about to be incredibly comfortable, when the gate agent said, "Oh, enjoy your flat bed." Almost 10 hours from London to Dallas. So a little bit of a celebration. Probably looked quite weird to most other passengers, but when you get a 10 hours in a flatbed, even though it's the old business class of British Airways, it is definitely worth it. So the flight was exceptional, as one could expect. One thing that British Airways really gets right is the crew, which I've not had a bad crew. I've had a mediocre crew, but I've never had bad crew on the flight. The food in this instance was absolutely superb, with a range of options that you will see, starting with seared tuna starter and a salad that was made of roast vegetables, rather than focusing on those sorts of salads with the olives and maybe just a couple little cut bits of vegetables, as many airlines would just throw together. And then halibut with cream mashed potato, onion and sun-dried tomatoes for my main. And for dessert, there was a lovely chocolate torte thing with caramel sauce on the side. The rest of the flight went off without a hitch, with a small meal being served before landing, which was also excellent. The entertainment options on the flight were numerous, and overall the experience was excellent. After arriving in Dallas-Fort Worth, I remained there for a few hours before my next connection, struggling to get through, as one of the guys that was in charge of facilitating the queue was telling people to go to the back of the line, even though you had less than half an hour. So a bit of flexibility required at Dallas-Fort Worth security rather than impeding. Your job at security is to get your passengers through safely and onto the flights without causing significant delays. Unfortunately, Dallas needs a bit of work on that. After arriving in Seattle, my bags were left behind as usual because of such a short connection time, and had to go back to the airport to get my bags a few hours later. The next morning, I went down to the centre of Seattle and took the train, which was about 4 hours on Amtrak, through to Canada. The experience was quite pleasant, and I do find it hard to see why there's so many haters of Amtrak. After spending several days in Vancouver, I went over to Whistler Blackcombe, where this review starts. Whistler Blackcombe itself is made up of 2 mountains, Blackcombe and Whistler. It's one of these resorts that has such a wonderful reputation, but on the face of it, but when you dig into it, it's not as good. The problems with Whistler Blackcombe is that it's so close to the sea that the snow on the lower elevation is very fluctuating and can melt quickly when there's sun, as there was when I was there. The bottom half of the mountain being very dicey for skiing, even in the middle of February, and the upper mountain being quite good in majority of places, but the best being on the top left-hand side of Blackcombe itself, up into the saddles on the mountain, $1 Million Ridge and Spankies. Overall, the skiing when I was there was reasonable, more like a 7 out of 10. There was definitely some areas where they could have been grooming more or focusing the snowmaking on, but this is what you expect with Whistler Blackcombe. Every time that you see the videos with tons of powder and stuff like that only lasts a few days. Like a metre of snow can be wiped out within 3 or 4 days. The right or wrong weather in this case. Overall, Whistler is ridiculously expensive for the accommodation because of the name. The food choices are quite reasonable, but the on-mountain experience especially is expensive and definitely not worth spending $25 or $30 to have a proper lunch. And accommodation also is ludicrously expensive for the quality that it is. And yes, there are some nice options, but these nice options are like $1,000+ per night. And for somewhere that pretends to be this world-class skiing destination, it really isn't. And overall, for a ski trip in Canada, there's so many other better places, like Revelstoke, or going to the Big Three with Banff and Lake Louise, which offer really good accommodations, some really expensive options, but more reasonable for the quality of snow and atmosphere compared to Whistler Blackcombe. So overall, I'll give Whistler Blackcombe about a 7.5, 8 for the Blackcombe side. But you really have to pick your days. And that's the other problem with Whistler Blackcombe, is if you go when the snow's good, you're going to have tens of thousands of people coming from Vancouver. It's only an hour and a bit away. So overall, I would say that my trip to Blackcombe was okay, but it's not somewhere that I would be rushing to go back to unless there was like a metre of snow falling in the week before. Thank you very much for listening to today's installment of Big Blues Explorations. Please stay tuned for more content throughout the summer, covering the reviews of other places that I've been on the American Canada trip, and look forward to my planning for the 25-26 season, skiing in New Zealand and pre-season in October, November time. Thank you very much.